What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday. Welcome back to episode 3 of the Texas Two-Step.
Bang!
I'll probably laugh forever at that, hopefully. What's up, everybody? Welcome to a new week. We're excited. Brand new week here of the podcast, soon to be the fastest growing college football podcast in the nation. Yay, the world. Probably by de facto there. But we're excited. We're having fun. We've got a good list of subject matters today. But first and foremost, Hanley, I'm sure you've got a pre-week drink in hand. What do you got going on tonight?
Went to the fridge, got a new one, Crispy Summer by Eureka.
Oh, hold on. That's what is that? 11 below or 8 below in Houston?
No, it's
right?
Eureka. It's the Eureka Heights one.
Eureka. Oh, that's a totally separate route. Who is it that makes our what was the one that we were always drinking? We're like joking around about. Have you seen this beer?
Oh,
that's not 11 below or 8 below.
It has the fish on it. It's the IPA.
I can't even think about it. Yeah,
I haven't seen.
That's a good one. We'll have to make that a special selection.
I agree. We'll find that and bring it back. Yeah.
All right. So I'm being a little bit of a homer. I'm doing the Farmhouse 2 episodes in a row. I know I didn't show it, but you've had it before. It's bourbon, iced tea, honey, and a little bit of mint.
Oh.
We call it the Farmhouse. It's delicious.
You try it with a little lemonade?
I have done lemonade. I just didn't have any today.
Sounds good though.
So it's like the Arnold Palmer, just with a little bit of something extra.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I like that. I'll have to try it next time.
Good. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
How's it going?
We went on about conference alignment forever last week.
Yeah.
The fans loved it.
Rave reviews.
I feel like after the release of the new Pac-12, we could pick right back up where we left off.
Oh goodness, we haven't even. And like I mentioned last week, we have not even touched the ACC yet.
No, we have no, of course. As a lot of people don't do, they just don't mess with the ACC. If Clemson's good, if Florida State's good, people will talk about the ACC. If neither of those teams are relevant, do they exist in the world of college football?
I'll touch on this a little later, but everyone forgets about the U. And funny enough, after recording last week, I went downstairs and was just flipping on some TV before bed, and the U Part 2 was on.
Okay.
One of the best 30 for 30s, I think.
Yeah.
And just remembering it, how good those teams that team was, and how relevant they were. And I don't think there's many teams. This argument's thrown around. It was thrown on last year. Is the sport better with certain teams when they're good? Tennessee. They said a lot about Tennessee last year. I think that's true for a few teams, and I definitely think Miami's one of them.
Is college football in general better when Miami is relevant?
Yes. I don't think you can throw that around for like every team. I do think certain teams are. But that could be a topic for another day.
But maybe it's because I just do not have any love for that school. And as I said last episode, I grew up a Florida State fan. So I do not – the only time that I ever – no, actually, I'm not sure I've ever actually gone for Miami in a game. I just have never been a fan. Yeah. I really wanted Ohio State to beat them in that national championship back in the early 2000s.
The sideline judge granted.
Yeah, but
because that was not PI.
To me, I don't feel that way. I'm like, if Miami is obsolete and not in the equation, I don't know if anybody misses them. But it may be the fact that if the ACC is not relevant, then it feels like something's missing. And what's odd is that Clemson has filled that void over the last 10 years, whereas prior to that, they did not.
Yeah.
88, I guess they had a championship, but for a solid 20 years, it was Florida State, Virginia Tech, Miami, somebody in the ACC was pulling weight, and obviously Florida State did a heavy amount of lifting, but maybe that's what it is. It's almost like the past couple of years, maybe at least last year, it was like, all right, the ACC is just non-existent.
Yeah, I do think with the ACC now is you have to have the three teams that are relevant, and Miami's got to fill that void. And I don't think we're having this conversation about the ACC if Miami's relevant.
But North Carolina or Wake Forest, they're never filling that void. No. I mean, like, they've tried. They've kind of come around. A&M's played North Carolina in a bowl game, and it's just like it's not really the same.
No, it's not. Well, yeah, no, good show for you today. I think actually this will be a first time we actually dive into some picks today. We are officially, it's football season. This is officially the start of week 0.
That's crazy.
I love it.
So Thursday this week we'll actually be making picks.
Yes, for this week. Today we're going to be making
talking games upcoming.
Yeah. Today it's conference picks, Final Four, and then we'll do the natty. We'll do a natty pick for each of us, and also Texas and A&M picks. I think
we are okay. We're gonna pick our own schools. We're also gonna estimate each other's records.
What? It's Texas two-step
with as much unbiased as possible.
As much as we can muster.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I look at Texas' schedule and I kind of laugh and I'm like, oh man, if only, if only it was that easy.
We'll see if you got the guts.
Let's do it. Okay. Do you want to talk about Pac-12 2024 at all? Like,
no, not today.
Okay, but I am going to say this.
Let's give it a rest.
They have to get removed from Power 5.
Well,
I do not think you bring schools like Rice into the mix and then say, like, Rice did not get any better. In fact, Rice is probably worse than they were 5 years ago as a program. I don't think you get to move them in to fill a void in order to keep a conference and now say, look, we're Power 5. Like, Power 5 should be the equivalent of what they were, and they are not.
Again, I think we can touch on this next week in depth too. But whereas the SEC or some other power conferences, you have a Vanderbilt, right? You have they're just perennial bottom feeders. Problem is this new Pac-12 2024, you're gonna have like 5 of those, 6 of those.
All bottom feeders.
I mean,
it's Stanford and everybody else.
Oregon State.
They just really just filled in gaps. Yeah. I know. I think it's an extension of our conversation from last week of what is really to come. You might piece together a conference and call it the Pac-12. It is not the Pac-12. It is not going to be a contender. No team is going to come out of that conference and actually play against any of the mediocre teams out of any other conference. Therefore, what actually happens in the future is probably something like the Vanderbilts get removed from the SEC, and you end up with a couple really strong conferences, and now you have like a D1, and then everybody else is in D2, D3.
Florida Atlantic should never be in any kind of power conference to be.
It was as if like it was an open invitation to a wedding and be like, all right, anybody that wants to show up, just let us know if you want in. And that was it.
Open bar.
You had to say no. Yeah. It was like the sorority in school that nobody would ever come to their party, so they just let everybody join.
It's a good one.
And we all know what sorority that was on campus.
We do. You
didn't get in anywhere else, so you got to join that one.
Yeah. But. Well, hey, before we get into picks, real quick, 15 second, your take on Blindside, Michael Orr.
Oh, snap. I have not seen an update in about a week since the Tuohys came out and said that this was not the first time that Michael Orr attempted to get money from them. My very first thought was, this is out of left field. Why is this 15 years down the road? Did somebody run out of NFL money? Then I saw the allegations. I was like, oh man, I definitely understand how somebody could take advantage over adoption versus what's it called?
Conservatorship.
Conservatorship. Yeah. And then the Tuohy's response, I thought was either very well put together or accurate. And where I am right now, I bet it's somewhere a mix between the two because, right, there's always three sides of the story, their side, and the truth. And I bet it's something like you knew you were given money and now you want more of it. But at the same time, we might have maybe there actually was a conservatorship, something like that.
Someone kind of hit me in going back to the Johnny doc where they talked about how no one really did their due diligence on Johnny having all this money. They just ran with it.
Yeah.
And Skip Bayless talking about it, all these national pundits saying, well, he comes from big oil money.
Right.
How does no one do their due diligence on this topic? Like the whole premise is based around they adopted him, not conservatorship. They adopted him. And we just, it's and maybe they knew, maybe they decided, you know what? Conservatorship. Yeah, no, let's scratch that out. Adoption.
Well, I mean, modern journalism, and you got to move fast to get the story out and whatever gets the clicks. But at the same time, depending on who got into it, did they know the difference? And did they see something like, oh, I'm sure it's the same.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say it's sad or tragic in any way. It's just, it was funny to me also hearing like all the Mississippi State fans, like Brandon Walker on Barstool. It's like 10-minute rant about this. I told you. Like I was waiting for this day.
Oh, he was backing Michael Orr saying that this smelled shady from the beginning.
Oh yeah, he's been on that train. I think they played a recording from like 5 years ago of him.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Anyway,
I would have thought what actually sounded odd is when people kind of come out of the woodwork, and it's like, who's making money from this now? I get it. It was a $300 million box office film and an Oscar winner 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But someone didn't notice that they weren't making money then? Like, how do you just now notice that you didn't make money?
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's surreal. 2023. What can you say?
Very odd. All right. Conference. You want to go west to east or the opposite direction?
Yeah, east to west. I like that.
East to west.
Yeah. We'll go time zones. So ACC.
Starting with ACC.
ACC. I guess I'll go first. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So we're picking. We're gonna say who we think's in the title game.
Yep.
And then choose your winner, and also choose who you say is the
most interesting team.
The team you're most interested in watching.
Yeah. The most intriguing team. However you want to define that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
good.
So I guess I'll go first. So I think this is the year that Clemson redeems itself. I think hiring Garrett Riley away from TCU, what he did with Duggan and TCU last year is going to be a huge, huge difference. I think Cade Klubnik's going to be a real deal at quarterback. Their schedule is relatively easy. They got Florida State at home. I think they got Florida State and Miami at home, both this year. So I think Clemson and Dabo, the Fighting Dabos, redeem themselves and take it. I think they'll beat Florida State too. I think Florida State's good. I just don't think they're quite there yet. But I got Clemson over Florida State since they did away with the divisions in the title game. And then the most interesting team is Miami. I'm just, I'm a big believer in Cristobal and what he can do. It's always said the head coach, if you're going to change a program around, your biggest jump most often is the second year. This is his second year. And again, I think I think the sport's a little better when Miami's relevant. So yeah, Clemson over Florida State, and then Miami's sort of my team to watch and see how they do.
All right. Yeah, I don't think you're going to find a lot of people that kind of look at the field and not assume it's Florida State and Clemson in the title game. I've been waiting for Florida State to kind of have the rebound. I don't think anybody ever expected them to get as bad as they got. I can't remember their quarterback's name. I think he's pretty good. I think he's like a fifth-year senior, so I'm expecting I'm expecting them to play pretty well because they made a big jump last year.
Yeah.
So, but you're absolutely correct. Clemson did what they had to do. Like Clemson, for a school, small private school, I think they've got the money. They've certainly got the money after a few national championships. They're going to do everything they have to do. They've recruited well. I think they'll play well. I think Dabo could be the best coach in the league.
Yeah.
All in all, some reason I just think Florida State's probably got maybe slightly better talent on the field just because of the name of the school that they are. And if they get hot, they'll be the team to beat. So I'm gonna probably go with personal bias. I'm gonna choose Florida State against Clemson to win the ACC. Now, this is not necessarily everybody's interest, but it's my interest. I'm going to give you a reason why.
Yep.
I want to watch Georgia Tech because that's where Haynes King into. And I just want it to be proven he's awful.
He was terrible.
He doesn't deserve to be in D1. I think he ruined the Aggies last year. He got lucky that he even saw the field as much as he did. We got lucky that he got injured in game one of the year before. And I want to see him play and be like, look, he can't even start at Georgia Tech. But other than that,
all right.
Other than that, I'm interested in Miami, but I don't need him to be good because A&M plays them in week 2.
Fair enough. All right. So a little difference of opinion there. I like it. All right, Big Ten. Who you got?
Big Ten. God, you know that everybody assumes Michigan continues the run and pulls it together. I think it's going to be Ohio State again. Actually, Michigan won the Big Ten last year, didn't they?
They did.
They did. Who did they play? Who did they play in that championship game?
I forgot.
What?
I forgot. I mean, they pistol whipped Ohio State.
Right.
Half
to get into it. And that's where I think Ohio State comes off. The chip on the shoulder.
Oh, I guess it was Purdue.
Yeah,
it looks like it was Purdue last year.
It was Purdue, yeah. But again, that game wasn't close.
No, 43-22.
Yep. I'm gonna say it's Ohio State this year, and
they're still doing divisions there, so it'd be
I know. That's it. I mean, like you look at the West Division, it's like who's coming out of that? It is not going to be Northwestern, but it wasn't them last year. Let's go ahead and say that Wisconsin with their new setup plays really, really well. And I'll go Michigan. I mean, I'll go Ohio State against Wisconsin with Ohio State winning the Big Ten.
Okay. And the most interesting team?
Probably going to be Wisconsin.
Okay.
Yeah. Wisconsin with their new offense. And let's see just how that looks.
That's a good one. It'd be really interesting to see Fickle, what he does. Okay. So I think Michigan keeps rolling. They bring back, by most calculations, 81% of their starters. They've got a really cakewalk of a schedule. I think they're just more physical. They got Ohio State at home.
Both running backs coming back, right?
Both running backs coming back.
That's the best. That's the best duo running back in the country. Easy.
Yeah. And I just don't. I mean, I know at some point Ryan Day is going to miss on a quarterback, and they just don't have one this year. So, and I think what we've seen the last couple of years is experience at quarterback means a ton. And I'm really, I'll get kind of this with Alabama later, but I just don't. At some point, he's going to miss with the quarterback. I think they're good. I just think Michigan's just going to own them. You know, kind of like Bob Stoops owned, Mac Brown for 5 years. I just think they're kind of in that mode right now.
Finally, the coin flip. Jim Harbaugh is actually going to
Yeah,
start to have consistency.
So I got Michigan, I actually got them beating Illinois coming out of the West. I think Bielema's got that thing, Bielema ball, run the ball, good defense. I think he's going to surprise some people this year. I think they finished the year real strong last year. So I actually got Michigan over Illinois. And my most interesting team, if Penn State doesn't make the jump this year and beat at least Michigan or Ohio State, when are they?
James Franklin gets fired.
I don't know. I think they re-signed him with a lot of money. So I think that'd be a pretty major buyout. But you've got a down. I think you've got Michigan at home this year. You got a down. I think again, OSU, not a good quarterback situation. I don't know if you're going to make a jump Penn State at any point, why not this year? So that's my most interesting team.
Yeah, I would say Penn State needs to be watched, and I've thought about this ever since James Franklin went there because, right, I mean, there was a lot of conversation in Austin that he was going to leave Vanderbilt and come there, and he hadn't done much. Even when they seem really good, they've got the Saquon Barkleys or some stellar quarterbacks. It's like, yeah, they flop. They're average. 7-2 last year. In the 11-2 overall, but still can't win, and not even necessarily close against Ohio or Michigan State.
Yeah, I mean, look at their schedule. Again, you're at Ohio State. You got Michigan at home late. And then there's really just not a lot of strong teams in there. I mean, you got Iowa at home. You're at Illinois. But he's recruited well. I mean, he's not pulling top 5 classes. I think he's pulling top 12 classes, and he's done that many years. I don't know. I just gotta think this is the year, Franklin. This is the year. You've got to get done this year.
He's got to win a big game. I mean, 11-2 is a great record, but there was only 3 ranked teams at the end of the season in the Big Ten.
I think he's got to split Ohio State, Michigan. I think he's got to at least tie. Otherwise, I think the fan base is going to start getting restless there. So.
They're getting restless. I mean, I think they really got beat down by the the penalties from the past, but they would like to regain their prominence, their glory,
for sure.
to be in that national conversation again.
For sure,
and they really haven't been.
All right. SEC.
This is a tough one. A lot of activity. I mean, a lot of questions here. We're going to have Alabama highly ranked 4, LSU's at 5, Tennessee at 11, Georgia right there at 1. I mean, I would love to think that there's a shakeup in the East, and there very well could be. I think I said this last week. I think Tennessee's the team to watch. I think Josh Heupel's a real deal. I think that team has been stacking. Talk about a fan base that's ready. Like, they're going to show up. And I don't think Georgia gets soft as a team or a fan base, but they've had 2 natties in a row. There's some people that might stay in the parking lot for a game just because. And I think Tennessee is in the stands every single game. I'll go out and I think Josh Heupel is that superstar, that rising star, but he's already at the school that he could probably stay at. Go ahead and mark me down for Tennessee for the East, even though they lose to the Aggies.
Rocky Top, really?
Yeah, which then lines up for a really interesting Western matchup because, all right, I'm not going to be that much of a homer and say that A&M wins the West because we've got a tough schedule. But let's just go ahead.
Really go out on that one.
What's that?
You'd be really good. That's a real long, real skinny limb to climb out on that.
Well, the thing is, this is the thing. You win a couple games, and you're in the conversation. Because when you're in the SEC, we're in that. It's like if you're Tennessee and you beat Georgia, all of a sudden you just probably get number 1. If you go into the game A&M against Alabama 5-0, you're not going to be ranked 23rd.
No.
But if you beat the number 2, 3, 4 team, whatever Alabama's ranked at that point, you're making a massive jump. And there's going to be a lot of energy at that point. All right, you're going to have Tennessee on the road. You're going to have to go to Oxford. Hopefully, the Fighting Lane Kiffins aren't that amazing, and still have LSU on the road night game. I mean, it's a gauntlet to try to get all the way there. So no, I'm not going to say that this is A&M's year to make that run, even though we do have Alabama at home. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and say Alabama, 1-loss team to the Aggies, against Tennessee, 1-loss team to the Aggies. And then, wait, does Alabama play Tennessee? Check the schedule.
Yeah,
they play regular season, because that is a hatred by the Volunteers.
Tennessee's at Alabama the 3rd Saturday in October.
I think this is what's festering. Tennessee has hated for the last 20 years feeling completely insignificant.
Yep.
Massive rivalry from years past, completely inconsequential. We care nothing about you. You mean absolutely nothing. You are a bump in the road. And I think this is the year they can tie it all together. Very much like Georgia has over the past year, you could see Tennessee become extremely hot, win the East, and win the SEC.
I mean, they're at Florida. You got South Carolina, A&M home back-to-back weeks. Well, there's a bye week in between, and then you go at Alabama, then at Kentucky, who a lot of people think Kentucky could be a surprise team, and then you got Georgia before Thanksgiving. I just don't see it. I just don't see that.
They have to have it all together. I mean,
I think they lost too much. I just think they lost too much.
I'm pulling a Gronk move and betting on the Cowboys. Like here, it's like, look, you can't bet on the favorites and win any money, so you kind of got to find your your higher risk. But
so you got Bama over. Bama Tennessee.
Like what happened last year? Like South Carolina pops up out of nowhere and starts busting off teams. I think they beat Tennessee, for example, by 3 scores.
Yeah, after the Bama win, yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
who's your pick?
I'm going to go with Tennessee. I'm going to go with Rocky Top.
Oh, the whole thing?
The whole thing.
Oh.
It was like East, Alabama, Tennessee in the championship, Tennessee to win it.
All right.
And that's just going to be the rare pick. You're not going to see that across the pundits.
No, you're not. That's
but if it turns out this podcast is going to blow up because it'll be like, who is that genius talking about football? Look, I'm not going to get any fans picking Alabama like everybody else.
For that to happen. Who's your interesting team? Who's your most interesting team?
I'm going to go with Tennessee. If Tennessee were to pull that off, I mean, obviously we know who I'm going to have the most interest in, but very much like last year, obviously I'm going to watch every single game, but I had my heart broken pretty early on. I was like, wow, we are off the rails. All I really cared about at that point was getting back on track. And again, I wasn't disappointed. Like that, getting back to the Jimbo conversation, I think you're able to recover a dumpster fire and end up with a good closeout with a solid win with a team that didn't look lucky. They looked well put together. So that's why I've got hope, and I think he's a good coach. So, but still, I'm very interested in the SEC this year. I think we got a lot of changes. Like, what is Arkansas going to look like? They were so hot at the beginning of last year and then completely fell off. You got to put that team back together. KJ Jefferson's still in the mix. I mean, that dude is incredible. I mean, very good athlete.
I think it's I wouldn't say it's as good probably as it's ever been, but I think it's going to be as interesting as it's ever been for sure.
You're not returning. It's not like Georgia coming back with Stetson Bennett. It's not like Alabama coming back with Bryce Young. It's kind of like, who's playing?
Yeah.
Who's around here? They were pretty good last year, but they also had some misgivings. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I've struggled a lot with this. I can't remember. I can't remember the last time we've ever had last time there was a 3 in a row SEC championship. Maybe it was one of the Bama teams. I'm not remembering. Man, I just can't go against Georgia. I just think Florida's still down. I don't see South Carolina. Tennessee again. I think Tennessee's lost too much to really compete. I think Georgia might slip up once this year, but then I still think they'll get. I still think they'll get to Atlanta and play. So until someone proves me wrong, they just recruit. Kirby Smart is just he's just recruited too well.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to put too much on whatever quarterback they pick, especially early on. So they'll let him grow in the season. I think Uga's got the East pretty well in hand. I'm not going to waver from that. The West is interesting. Bama's recruited at a very high level. I think Bama's going to be good at most positions. I still don't see their true playmaker though. That's where I wonder about Bama. I also thought back to when it seems to me like we're getting the vibe out of Tuscaloosa that Saban wants to go back to a more traditional way of playing extremely good defense, running the ball, kind of just grinding teams down. And I thought back to when Texas tried to do that after Colt McCoy got hurt and saying, we can't be relying on one player, which was what Texas had been for 7 years, and on that quarterback. And they saw in a national title game what happens when he gets hurt, and then your team just falls apart, right? And I think Bama I get that feeling Bama's trying to do that too. They've been reliant on Tua, on Jalen Hurts, on Bryce last year. I think they've got the feeling that they need to go back to being more traditional style. And I just wonder, how is that mentality going to work with the players? You've been playing a certain way for a while. Now you're going to go back and do something completely different. I also don't love the quarterback situation either. I mean, I don't. So again, going back to this, I'm going to go LSU in the West. I think LSU, Jaden Daniels, he's the best quarterback in the conference. I think Brian Kelly, it's obvious the man can coach. He's got players down there. So I don't think LSU necessarily runs the table. Maybe they slip up somewhere, but I think it's Uga over LSU in the title game. Again, until someone proves it wrong, give me Georgia, give me the Dogs. My most interesting team, I initially had Tennessee in, but as I'm thinking about it too, Tennessee, I could see them gain to another 10, 11 wins, but I could also see them 9 wins. I don't see much less than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see like a big drop off Tennessee. I just don't think they have the talent they had last year to get that upper echelon. So again, I had Tennessee. I'm going A&M as my most interesting team because I do think that if I don't think 7 wins cuts it, and I think 7 to 8 wins is a real possibility for Jimbo. So, and if y'all, God forbid y'all go 6-6.
You said the line is 8.5 on the team.
It's 8.5, yeah, and we'll get to that later when we do our official A&M picks. But I with the way A&M's recruited, y'all should never have been 5-7 last year.
Right.
So I think again, I think you got to have a successful season this year.
Yeah. Well.
So,
on that note, it's not the defense. So really, the real microscope is on Bobby Petrino, I think.
And that too. That was
I think a lot of people are going to be very intrigued by that. Be like, really, Bobby Petrino as an assistant, what's that going to be like? Yeah. As well as taking over an offense from Jimbo Fisher. Like, there's going to be a lot of interest on that, because what happened last year was really no quarterback, nobody, and
I do think Wegman can play
average, and we just got left with that dud. But
I do think Wegman can play. I think Wegman can play, and so
I think Max Johnson can play. Broke his thumb in his first game.
It's Wegman or nobody. It's Wegman or nobody.
He's the guy.
You're not getting 8 wins with Max Johnson. Not with that schedule. Anyway, all right.
So he's got the bloodline, and he's like 25.
Okay.
So,
Whatever your reasoning. Okay, so Tennessee over Bama. I'll go over LSU. All right. Big 12.
the Big 12, the Pac-12, the big disappointment.
This is the year.
The final year. I mean, this is a pick. This is like a funeral. We are picking like the last. I do not care whatever we call this new conference called the Pac-12 with somehow 18 D2 schools in it. But gosh, I think it's going to be USC against Washington. I think those are easily the two.
You're going Pac-12. Obviously, I said Big 12. Okay, go back 12.
Oh, you said Big 12. I thought you said Pac-12.
Well, yeah, I think we were going East Coast to West Coast.
Oh, you're right. Okay, well, maybe Big 12 is a funeral too, because obviously that's shaking up. You're taking the two powerhouses out of it and bringing in some interesting teams. I mean, that's crazy. This is the year that Texas has been waiting for. OU is down. Baylor will not be as good. Texas is going to probably be better than they were last year. Therefore, I think they have every opportunity to rule that conference. You brought in Houston and Central Florida, that's right?
And BYU.
And BYU.
And Cincinnati.
Love BYU, but are they on the schedule?
They are.
Okay.
We get them at home, the Fighting Mormons.
Get them at home, but did you not lose to BYU in Austin a couple years ago, or was that?
They scared the death out. They scared me to death. 24-year-old Polynesians.
Wait.
What's more scary than that?
The spirit of Joseph Smith just coming all over you.
There's something there.
Well, you played them a home and away a couple years ago, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you barely. That was the last year. Last year, Mac Brown. Last 2 years.
Oh, was it that long ago?
Well, yeah, it was Mac Brown. When they got destroyed in Provo, that was 2013. Max last year, and I think they came back. Charlie Strong's first year and whooped them too. Yeah, I think I'll have to go back and look, but yeah, no, it's
Texas is a different team, but a better team than those 2 years.
Yeah, hands down. The talent level is just night and day from back then.
Well, you always had talent.
Oh yeah,
Sarkisian just seems to do a better job.
I think it was a different type of talent. Tommy Boy recruited really well. I mean, he recruited at a high level. I just don't think he recruited the right kind of players. He recruited a lot of 7-on-7 guys, and he didn't spend much time in the trenches getting the big bodies. And Sark, I think, has actually realized that from beating the SEC, you win games in the trenches, and especially going against SEC, you're gonna be playing a totally different type of athlete than you played in the Big 12. And you've got to have those maulers on the front line. I think that's what he's done. He's absolutely done that. So yeah. So I mean, I think this is the year. I think we're back. I think 2023 is the season. I think they won the conference the first year in the Big 12, beat Nebraska, and I think we can leave it winning the conference. So I got Texas over K-State. Looking at the rest of the conference, I think those are the two best teams. I think K-State's going to be good. I just think Texas in the end is going to have the better talent to win the title. So, and my most interesting team is Texas, because I think if they do, it's Big 12 or bust. I think if they don't win the Big 12 title, the season will look. I think for all, especially Texas fans, will be looked at as a failure, especially going next year. So.
Because it's last year, because there's really no big elements of concern in front of you. How do you not?
The schedule fits up too well. I mean, we don't Oklahoma. I don't see where Oklahoma gets 9 wins. I think Oklahoma's not going to be good. You got K-State at home during the season. We go to at TCU. Iowa State's down. You got Tech at home. They only they only leave the state of Texas twice.
Unreal.
Iowa State and Alabama. I just think the start. It's Big 12 or bust. He's recruited too well. This is his third season. There's no excuse for not knowing the systems and not knowing the culture.
Yeah.
It's Big 12 or bust.
So as much as it pains me to say it, I look at it and like it's too easy.
Yeah.
I mean, just is what it is. I mean, I get it.
You're right. You're right.
What you most likely argue against or hope doesn't happen is really the skeletons of the past. K-State, BYU's, random loss to a Baylor or something, a 21-point lead block, bust to an Oklahoma, something like that.
They've got to find a way to win the one-score games for sure, and not give up leads. But everything I'm hearing, it's Longhorn talk, right? So you hear it every year. The team's gelling. They're having a great camp. There's leadership. There's player-led culture. I think Quinn's the real deal. And I think he will live up to the hype this year. I don't know if they go undefeated at Alabama. There's always a tricky game. They'll probably put the Iowa State game at night in November when it's freaking 29 degrees with a wind chill. Weird things happen in the Big 12 sometimes, especially last year. So again, I don't know if they go undefeated in conference, but again, I think they're by far the most talented. I just think stars are aligned. I think they take it this year. I really believe that.
Is there any reason to even assume that Venables can pull off a miracle and he can work with less talented players?
No.
And then,
he's recruited well though. That's gonna be the interesting thing, and I don't think they'll see it this year, but we might not see it because then even if he's recruited well, they get in the SEC and you still lose 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the fan base isn't gonna like that. So, I just don't. Oh, man, I mean, Lincoln just took so much with him. Lincoln took the soul of that school with him, and I don't think they've have recovered. I don't know if they will for a while. Anyway.
Well, I'm not going to hang my hat on hopes and dreams, but I do think that the best team is probably going to be Texas. I think they'll end up playing Kansas State. I know that's been a historically challenging game for Texas, but if you're a betting man, you usually have to go with stats and odds. So I do think Texas pulls it out this year.
All right.
What that means on the national level, I do not know, because I feel like that's a walk into the playoff for you.
Not to give it away, but yeah, I have them in the playoff. I think.
I mean, you could still win the Big 12 with 3 losses, and then not get into the playoff.
Yeah,
right?
I think at worst, it's a 2-loss season. Again, I'm just not as high on Bama this year. They should have beat them last year, if not for Bryce Young and a blown safety call by the refs.
Right.
At home. So I think the belief is going to be there that they can beat this Bama team. They're a better team than last year. They're a more physical team. We've got 75% of all the starters coming back. I'm hammering that money line. When that money line comes out that week, I'm hammering that money line.
That's is that week 1 or week 2?
Week 2. Well, technically week 2. It's week 2.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm on it.
All right. Pac-12.
Pac-12. I know I started on earlier. I think I don't think it's close. I think it's South USC and Washington are the 2 best teams. In that, I know there's a lot of hype on Oregon. We've got a Heisman campaign already started for Bo Nix. But regardless, you got good Bo, bad Bo, so he's guaranteed to somehow screw up about 3 games. So I'm gonna go with SC against Washington, but if Lincoln Riley's Lincoln Riley and he's got all his arsenal, I think you're a returning Heisman winner. Whether you believed he deserved it or not, they're going to be better than they were last year. I don't think it's necessarily going to be close. I could see an undefeated USC this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's your most interesting team?
Got to be Colorado. All eyes on Prime, right?
Yeah. No, I agree.
So I mean, everyone's going to want to see it. It's not going to be hard to rise from the ashes. I mean, you can't get worse. Is basically my point. But obviously, Stardom. Everybody wants to see how a system can convert to D1. But what's going to be overly interesting is bringing in his Jackson State players. The way that he just dismissed half the team and replaced them. Is that system going to work, or should he have gone with the I'm going to work what's already here? I think what he did in that regard hasn't been done before or often. I'm so confident in myself and my players and my system that I don't even need to look at what's in front of me. I am going to do a quick analysis, scrap half, and quickly backfill, and I'm going to be just fine.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
The interesting thing to me is look at the Vegas win totals for them. It's only 3.5.
Yeah, right. I mean,
that's
what I mean. The odds are, it's not going to be hard to do better than last year. I think one win last year, but
what a tough schedule though.
But the odds of taking what your strategy and saying that this is the best way to go about it, I think most people are like, really?
What a tough schedule.
I don't think I can put my money behind that, because you're taking talent, but they're from D2. Like, their very first game against a D1 school should be the hardest game they've ever played.
Yeah. You know, I look at the Pac-12 and I almost feel sorry for them in a way, because I think this is the strongest top to bottom they have been in years. But I think unfortunately, I think they're going to cannibalize each other. I really do. So my here's what I got. This was the hardest one for me to come up with, and really I could see any one of 4 teams of SC, Washington, Oregon, Oregon State pulling this off. Ultimately, though, I've actually scratched out it 2 or 3 times. SC at some point, I really think Alex Greenwich, the DC for Lincoln and USC, he must have some kind of pictures of Lincoln doing something somewhere, because he has been garbage for Lincoln for years, and Lincoln has carried him. And at some point, it's like when are you gonna not be someone who you've shown to be for the last 7 years? You are who you are, Greenwich. Like, your defense is just not good, or just doesn't mesh with Lincoln's system and his offense. So, and ultimately, I think SC is going to just play. They're just going to play too many quality teams. I mean, starting middle of October, you're at Notre Dame, Utah home, at Cal, at Washington home,
Oregon,
then at Oregon, and then UCLA home. That is a gauntlet. That's a gauntlet.
Going to South Bend is a big deal. But if Notre Dame's a real deal, Notre Dame,
people think they are,
is right up there with Texas every year they're back. And there is not, in my opinion, there has not been a bigger consistent letdown on an overranked team for the last 15 years than Notre Dame.
Well, we can dive into Notre Dame and a different day on as to why that is, but I've got my theories. But I do think Notre Dame is going to be. I mean, you're going at Notre Dame and then Utah home. That's going to be 2 really physical games back to back that SC is going to have to play, and I just don't think SC is going to be able. I just don't think SC is that physical to do it. Now, Caleb Williams is phenomenal, so I'm not going to totally write them off. But I just think the schedule's too hard. I see at least 2 losses in there in that schedule of Notre Dame, Utah, Cal, Washington, at Oregon, UCLA home. So with that being said, I've got Washington over Oregon State. I think Washington.
Wow.
Yeah, I I was really impressed with them last year. Michael Penix coming back. I think that coach can. I think DeBoer can coach. I think they're gonna have a good defense as well. And then Oregon State, Oregon State may be the most quiet 10-3 team that no one talked about last year.
Super dog, yeah.
Yeah. So you add DJ Unglele, who by all accounts is a lot more happier. He's a lot more comfortable at Oregon State.
Sure.
They're going to run the ball really well. He's not going to be asked to carry the load like he was at Clemson. So in that aspect, when you can play action and you only have to throw it 20 times a game instead of 35, I think, and then you can scramble for a couple first downs. I think they're going to be really good. I think they'll probably have a little revenge tour on them too, being left out of the Pac-12. So yeah, I've got Washington over Oregon State, and then Colorado. Colorado's team, the most interesting team to see what Dion does.
Wow.
Sure. Yep.
Well, if Oregon State is in that game, their fan base feels completely vindicated, and the whole "see, I told you so." But they're not going to have any say in the matter. They're still going to be relegated to where they're at, and then that will be the beginning of. It's going to be sad. They'll be like, "See, we could have," and then be like, "Well, you can't do anything about it at this point. Now you're kind of done."
All right. So just to recap, you've got Seminole, Ohio State, Tennessee, Texas, and USC. All right. I've got Clemson, Michigan, Texas, UGA, and Washington.
So as far as the playoffs go,
all right.
I think this is the year that the committee does not screw around with the whiny crybabies. We want ins. We're undefeated. I think the lesson should be learned. That national championship game, I believe, was not even close to the least watched natty of all time.
Mm-hmm.
That is not good for football, the brand. It probably would have upset Alabama. It's just like that. We're big college football fans. I stopped watching that game.
Oh yeah.
Except for the fact, I wanted to be like, "See, told you." I was so disinterested. I'm like, wow, this is watching Alabama on a preseason.
After they hit the over by themselves, I think early in the fourth, that's when I turned it off.
So I do not think a Cincinnati makes the playoffs. If TCU were to win the Big 12, for whatever reason, I do think that the honest assessment of they won the Big 12 because these other teams got hurt, sort of thing. Like we cannot put them back in the playoff. You can't do that. So I think that what you're going to see is the rise of the super schools that will make the playoff. And you've heard me kind of say this in the past of there's schools that just aren't going to get that consideration. I've called them baby schools in the past. Like a Cincinnati, regardless of how good, they just can't be that good because they don't play anybody. Mm-hmm. And that there's got to be an honest conversation. So I think at this point, and this is the area of probably what's going to go forward. It's just going to be the big brand schools that make the playoffs, no matter what. Because even if you had a school like Texas in the national championship against Alabama, and it was a blowout, I still think you have more people watching that game, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. So
who you got?
I'm going to go with USC because I picked him. Okay. I'll say Texas. I'll say Alabama, and I'll say Florida State.
Wait, but you have Tennessee beating Bama.
Oh wait, Tennessee.
Okay,
I didn't mean Bama. USC out of the West. Texas. This one's going to be close. Scrap Florida State. I'll go with Ohio State if they've got the better record out of Big Ten, and then Tennessee.
They'll get
I don't think the SEC. I don't think the SEC champion does not make the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I think even with 2 losses, it's gonna be tough keeping the SEC title out just with bias. Okay, so we're pretty different. With the one exception being Texas. I think again the schedule's gonna be soft, but I still think they got the talent. I think they're in there. Michigan. I think Harbaugh's got that thing rolling. I think they're gonna beat Ohio State again. UGA, until UGA loses, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, UGA. I'm gonna ride that dog all day. Then Clemson. I think Clemson runs the table in the SEC, in the ACC. It's kind of their little revenge tour. And I've got Clemson coming out of the ACC. I think the Pac-12 will cannibalize themselves. Honestly, I just think top to bottom with those 4 teams. I think you have 2 teams going into it in the final 2 weeks with chances, and they're going to lose because they just backload that schedule.
My statement is only that USC is actually really good. If it's a multi-loss SC team that still wins the Pac-12, then I think you're right. They don't get the consideration.
Yeah.
Especially, we'll say Pac-12 against the ACC. Whichever champion's got the better record ends up in the playoff.
You got Natty. You got a national championship pick.
Natty. Yeah. As much as I do, if my teams were correct, as much as I do love the SEC, I think if Ohio State, a strong. I guess, well, it'll kind of depend on who they get matched up to. But I think if Ohio State's solid and they clean up in the Big Ten and they end up going against a less tested Texas or a softer schedule Pac-12 or ACC, then I think that they're the winner.
Buckeyes.
All
right, Buckeyes with no quarterback as of now.
Remains to be seen, but yeah.
Well, again,
we've seen the surprise quarterback from them just pop up out of nowhere. I mean, Ohio State has won the national championship with a 3rd string within the last 15 years. So I don't sit here, and I think Ryan Day is a pretty good coach.
I think he's a pretty good coach, and they do have the best receiving core in the country.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah, and a large part of that comes up to Marvin Harrison. I think he's the best receiver in the league.
Maybe the best player in the country.
Could be.
I think it's him or what's his face tight end out of Georgia. Bowers. I think you'd make argument those 2 are the best players in the country.
Really good.
Yeah, I wonder again the quarterback situation, because whatever quarterback they pick is going to be on a short leash. It's just tough going into a season not knowing who your definitive quarterback is. So
yeah.
Man, I hate picking chalk, but I think it's UGA in Michigan again, and then again,
crazy.
UGA's they just recruit at too high a level. They're not going to make whatever quarterback they pick carry the load.
So you're picking a team without a quarterback right now too.
I know, but
yeah. But what's odd is how many people wrote Georgia off last year, even though they had a national championship quarterback coming back.
Yep.
And this is the only thing I would say about that is I think Stetson Bennett carried that team in some certain situations last year, which if it wasn't him, it doesn't get done.
Yeah. Well, and again, I look at my 4 picks and I'm confident in my final 4, but I don't see Texas doing it. I just don't see Clemson. So then I'm left with UGA and Michigan. And I think those are the 2 best teams in the country, and I think they have been, or not have been, but I think they're 2 of the best. So again, and I hate doing it, but prove me wrong, UGA, until you lose.
Yeah, I mean you're right. It's like until you disappoint me, prove me wrong, because at this point, it hadn't really been close.
No. All right.
And I said Alabama 2 different times in national, but for some reason they've been on my mind. Yeah, it was Georgia that just blew out TCU.
Yeah. Okay. Aggie in Texas, the Texas 2-step picks. All right. Well, it's sure you can figure. I've got Texas. I legitimately think 11-1. I know it may be just a homer pick, but I think 11-1. I think this team's got it to go 11-1. Schedule's too easy.
One loss to Alabama,
Man,
or it's just in there somewhere.
I just really wonder about Bama's QB situation. I just really do. No, I could see Texas tripping up somewhere. But I mean, Bama's the obvious pick for a loss. But even then, I think that loss could help them. Even if they go into Tuscaloosa and say they lose like they did last year, they know they still have a chance to run the table. I still think that'll kind of galvanize them a little bit to do that. So, yeah, it's in there somewhere. I can't pick it. Big 12 screwy, but I do think it's 11-1 this year. I do. A&M, I think 8-4. I think 8-4 for your boys. I think the schedule is just too tough for any more than that.
It's a tough schedule.
It's a tough schedule. It's just there, and there's yeah. So I think y'all do make strides. I think the recruiting classes will kind of shine through a little bit. Again, I think Wegman's a player, but I just don't see any better than 8-4 for A&M. The schedule is too tough this year.
Definitely a tough schedule. I think the big question mark is going to be the Petrino offense and what he can do. If he's a miracle worker, I think you could see massive surprises. Things such as what happened when Cliff Kingsbury's running the offense. Just like it just all worked and seemed unstoppable to some degrees. I think the defense is going to be good. I think a hefty amount of that number one recruiting class is going to be playing for the first time as redshirt sophomores. So there could be some very well-developed talent there. I think a lot of freshmen played last year with a big ask, especially the O-line was shambles last year. There's new O-line coach, new systems there. 4 out of 5 of those O-linemen were playing as freshmen a lot of times last year. So that, by all accounts, should be better. I think we saw that at the end of the year and I do think Wegman is a player. The loss of Devon A-Chain is going to be massive, but Anaya Smith coming back, I think, is going to be big out of the backfield as well. I'm sitting in that 8-4 between 10-2. Like, if the team gets rattled, I could see the 8-4 happening. Like, not winning a big game, dropping to Tennessee, dropping to Alabama, dropping to LSU, and then screwing up somewhere, whether it's on the road to Miami or on the road at
Ole Miss.
Yeah, and God, I mean, like I said last week, like I don't know what we did to piss off Ole Miss so much, but goodness sakes, maybe they're like this everyone, but God, they love when they beat us, and Lane Kiffin just has no love for the Aggies for some reason. But if
9-3,
if Wegman gets protection and the receivers are in stride, if Alabama really can't pull it together, they don't have the quarterback game, and the defense is able to play well enough to capitalize there, that's where I can see that 10-2 coming out. God, I'd love to be impressed and super shocked with an 11-1, and I'm not going to go any far beyond that. The only way we beat LSU at the end of the year, in my opinion, is if the wheels fall off, if Kelly loses the team, if someone's injured. But LSU end of season redemption game, night game, that's going to be just a tough game to win for a team that's starting at the 5th position. So I'm going to go with 9-3. Give me a half game right above the betting average. And I know I've been talking up the, beating Tennessee and Alabama, but I'm going to go ahead and I'll say our 3 losses are Tennessee, LSU, and we screw up somewhere. Even though it would have to be on the road, that would have to make it the Miami game. Because I like to think we get it together. We always get up for Alabama, so either Alabama is incredible. But if the team is there, I mean, the wins can happen. So I'll roll at 9-3. And as far as Texas goes, I'm gonna go 10-2. I'm gonna say you lose to Alabama on the road, and Texas is Texas. So over the last few years, I don't necessarily think anything changes unless you just got it all going on. Let's say you drop the Red River rivalry, you do something weird like lose to Kansas. Could be that late Iowa State game, which I mean they're a coin toss.
They're bad though. They lost so many people.
I know. Just haven't.
But late season night game on the road in the Big 12.
Yep,
it's honest.
Yeah, I mean you got Kansas on the earlier side, but Baylor and Waco. Who knows? Is Baylor good? Is Baylor bad? What do they got? I mean, I think they've got a lot of attitude in a pretty good
they do.
Coaching staff.
Yeah, like I said, I could see it being in there somewhere. But you don't know. Maybe it's at TCU. You know, who knows?
Yeah, I think we both kind of operate in the same sort of perspective of our teams. It's like they could just string it all together because we feel like the talent's there and it could align, but at the same time, nobody would ever, even if that exact same team played last year all over again, I'm not going to somehow assume they go 5-7.
Yeah.
So,
all right,
that's where I'm at.
Well,
all right, so Thursday, we're going to do some previews.
Week zero. Looking forward to it.
Crazy.
Looking forward to it. To the season.
Right. Yeah. Cheers to that. Okay. Well, then talk to you on Thursday.
Yeah. That was fun.
All right. See you, everybody.
Bye.